One of my very good friends is competing in a fitness competition this summer, and I thought it would be so fun to do my makeup today like I would if I was doing her makeup on that day. For a fitness competition, you're not doing that everyday, trendy, glowy, barely there makeup look. This is stage makeup. You're going to be under really bright lights that wash you out, and the judges are going to be seeing you from a distance under those lights, so it's all about matte, bold look. Knowing this, I made sure to prep my skin really well last night. So skincare should ideally start way earlier, at least the night before. So last night I applied a facial oil to my face. I let it sink in for a little bit and then put a moisturizer over top just to lock everything in and let it simmer overnight. And then this morning I did a similar moisturizing routine and let that sink in for a couple hours. So now I'm ready for this matte, possibly drying makeup look. My skin's just gonna feel better underneath it overall. Another little skincare tip, if you ladies are going to be doing this look for a competition, shave your face. Take one of these little facial razors, they're like $5 for a pack at Walmart or Walgreens, and just scrape your face like a week before your competition. It gets all of that dead skin off and all of your hair. You ever see a girl up close and she has like a thicker foundation on and it kind of looks like she put foundation over a fuzzy peach? If that would bug you on the day, just shave your face like a week or so before. That way if you cut yourself, it has time to heal, but that'll take care of it and it'll make sure you have a very smooth application. One more preparation tip before we jump into the makeup. I'm sure, leading up to the competition, you might be tired, you're working out nonstop, you're hungry all the time, which might be interrupting your sleep. If you wake up the day of and you notice you have red or dry eyes and it's throwing your look off, guys, these Lumify eye drops, they get rid of all of the redness and they give you these beautiful white eyes, and it really makes your eye color pop. I always do it before I'm filming because for some reason, I always have red eyes when I'm supposed to film, so I drop these babies in and it gives me the whitest eyes and it really makes the eye color pop. So my first step would be to use a primer. I'm going to use the Hard Candy Hydrating and Gripping Primer. This stuff is great for gripping your makeup. I know I mentioned that you're really going to want a matte look, but I wouldn't suggest, if you have skin like mine, using a mattifying primer because those tend to make you look matte right away, and it's great. But then over time, it seems like your face is trying to compensate for that over mattification, and then it produces more oil and you end up looking more oily at the end of the day. e.l.f. also has one that just came out. It's a gripping primer. Milk Makeup has one, but that's more of a high-end brand. I'm going to be using all drugstore makeup today. I know when you're preparing for a fitness competition, you're paying for so many things. You're paying for your suit, you're paying for registration, for meal prep, possibly a coach. If there's some of you out there that are thinking, oh my gosh, now I have to shell out for a makeup artist or really high-end makeup, you can if you want to. And if you want to do that, good for you. I support you. But if you don't want to drop extra cash on top of that, you can do it yourself, I promise you. And you can do it with affordable drugstore makeup. So for foundation today, I'm going to use my Maybelline Superstay. This stuff is amazing. I used it on my wedding day and it didn't budge. I believe they repackaged this and or reformulated it. It's now the Superstay like 30-hour activewear, so I'm sure it would still be a great pick for a competition day. Milani also has a great full coverage matte foundation called the Conceal and Perfect, I believe. Catrice just came out with the True Skin foundation. There are so many great drugstore options. Obviously, I am not spray tanned right now. Please don't spray tan your face. Obviously, your body's going to be spray tanned. Just pick a foundation that's 1 or 2 shades lighter than your spray tan. So you don't want to be like all one color because naturally your face is usually lighter than the rest of your body. So just pick a foundation that is going to be 1 or 2 shades lighter than you on that day. I'm going to be using a brush to apply my foundation today. It's not what I usually do. I usually love using a dampened beauty sponge. However, I'm going for a flawless full coverage look today, so a brush is where it's at. And it's gonna make for a lot faster of an application, so it's a win-win. And just remember to blend up into your ears as well as down the neck. You want it all to look seamless. You don't want to look like you're wearing a mask or like a cake face. And this is more so important when you're doing such a full coverage look. Okay, I have 1/2 of the face blended out. That was probably an entire pump of product on just half of the face. All right, foundation is all blended out. I'm a blank slate of full coverage. I'm gonna go in with the eyes now before I do any under eye concealing, just in case I have any fallout or I need to fix up the shape, I can do that before applying concealer. For the eye look, I'm going to go very bold and smoky, yet neutral. Chances are you're going to have a beautiful, colorful, or sparkly suit. Your spray tan is going to be crazy intense, so I don't want anything on the face to clash with that or kind of come off clowny. So I want it to look bold, but beautiful and classy, if that makes sense. I'm using my Maybelline The Nudes palette. Maybelline has great eyeshadows, so does Milani. e.l.f. even has great neutral eyeshadow palettes. If you don't already have something in your collection, the drugstore's got your back. I'm gonna start with a denser eyeshadow brush and dip into the black in this palette, tap off the excess. And I'm going to start by shaping how I want the eyeshadow to look. So I'm going to shape out my corner with this black before I start any blending. And I'm kind of going for a cat eye shape. At least with my almond shaped eyes, that really complements them. So I'm just stamping the black shade into my corner and outer crease. Now that I have that stamped in and shaped the way I want it, I'm gonna move to the other eye and do the same thing just so I'm making sure everything's looking even before I start blending and adding other colors. Okay, I think they look pretty similar in shape and intensity. I'm gonna move on to a slightly fluffier brush. It's still densely packed, it's just slightly bigger, and I'm gonna move into a darker brown shade. So now I'm dipping into this shade here. And then again, tapping off the excess. And now I'm just gonna lay it down next to that black, lay most of that color down there, and then once most of it's laid down, then I'm gonna blend back and forth in and out of that black shade and onto the center of the lid. But at this stage, I'm still just worried about placing the colors where I want them before I'm really concentrating on blending out and giving like a smoke show effect. And then again, before moving on to another shade, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other eye. Okay, so I have the brown and the black pretty much shaped how I want them. Just keep in mind when you're placing these colors, don't place them too far up because remember, we still have to go in and blend out. And as you blend out, the color spreads farther and farther up your eyelid. So be placing these colors like on the lid, in the crease, and then just above the crease. Don't start out very wide because then when you go to blend out, it's gonna get even wider. I'm actually gonna add more brown. I wasn't too satisfied with the color that I laid down, so I'm going to intensify the brown a little further. Now I've picked a fluffy yet narrow brush. It's just not densely packed, but it's still narrow enough for precision. And I'm going to go in with this cream shimmer shade up in this upper corner. I'm going to pack that in the inner third of my eyelid, towards the corner and into the corner. Now that I have all of those colors laid down exactly where I want them on the eyes, I've selected a fluffy, loosely packed brush. It's clean, and I'm just gonna do the final blending. I'm gonna start here on the outer corner with the darkest shade before moving into the lighter shades. I'm just taking circular motions and blending those edges and the colors into each other. And in case you're wondering, all of my brushes are also drugstore. Most of them are just Eco Tools from Walmart. And I'm also grabbing the brush towards the end of the handle just to apply a lighter pressure. It gives a more buffed out and like airbrushed blend. Okay, so this eye is all blended out and you can definitely see the difference and how it smoked out and also crept up the eye. So it looks a lot more wide and open rather than this eye over here. So I just wanted to give you a before and after the final blend. Also, as I was blending, some of that black shade transferred to my very inner corner, which I'm fine if it transfers like towards the middle, but now I kind of see like a black shadow towards the inner portion of my eye. So I'll just take my foundation brush that I was using prior and just clean that up slightly, and it just kind of takes away that darkness. Also, if you are more comfortable doing your eyeshadow look first and then applying your foundation afterwards, that's definitely something you can do. If you're kind of worried about eyeshadow fallout or you're worried about, you know, the shape correction after the fact, you can definitely do your eyeshadow first and then go back in with your foundation. As I'm blending this out, I'm noticing that this eye has a deeper outer corner. I must have applied more black eyeshadow. That's not a problem. I'm just going to go back and deepen this one up a touch and do the same blending technique until I feel like they're even. Okay, now that I feel that the blend, depth, and shades are all even on each eye, I'm going to take my foundation brush and kind of just clean up the inner corners again. I'm going to go back into that cream shimmer shade and reapply it to the inner corners and also to my brow bone. Okay, eyeshadow is done. I can breathe a sigh of relief. relief. I don't know about you guys, but I always think eyeshadow is the most difficult part of the makeup application process. And if you feel like you're not very good at eyeshadow and you're panicking on the day of and it's not looking right, just remember, keep blending. Blending will save your day. And also, don't be too stressed, because once you do your lashes or you add falsies, it enhances the eye look and kind of covers up any flaws, and it'll turn out looking great, I promise. So don't be too stressed out or hard on yourself. Now I'm going to go in with under eye concealer. I'm going to use my Maybelline Age Rewind. Not my favorite concealer. If you have like a Maybelline Fit Me, that's awesome. ColourPop has great concealers. CoverGirl has great full coverage concealers. So you can use whatever you have on hand or that you find at the drugstore. Now I'm going to do one eye at a time just to make sure the other side isn't drying out as I'm blending. And then blending that concealer out will also help shape the edge of that eyeshadow as well. And then I'm just blending it all the way up to my temple just to give a lifted look. Now that under eye concealer is done, I'm going to finish the eyeshadow look by going back into that brown that I used on the lid and smudging that on the lower lash line. I'm going to save mascara and lashes for the very last step, but now that my eyeshadow is complete, I can properly gauge how intense I want my contour, bronzer, and blush. I'm going to start with a cream contour. If you don't have cream contour, don't worry. The next step will be just as good. We can go in with powder. It's going to look fine. But I am going to use the Maybelline Superstay Stick Foundation. I have it in the color Mocha. I'm going to use that as my cream contour just to get a little bit more intensity to start out with. And I have this perfectly shaped e.l.f. brush for contouring. Okay, and that is enough product for both cheeks. So it is a very pigmented product. And then just focus the intensity back towards your ear. That way when you're blending out, then it buffs and lightens as you move towards the inside of your face. You don't want to start with the most intense pigment you're laying down here and then blend back. That can start looking a little crazy and too intense on the cheekbones. So I always start my contour way at the back towards my ear and then blend up and out. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the cheek contour. I'm going to do the same thing now on the perimeters of my face, my jawline, and even slightly down the neck. I'm making sure to jam that contour into my hairline as well, because the last thing you want is, you know, a line of contour, then your skin, then your hair. Now I'm going to set that cream contour with a powder bronzer. Now usually I'll use like a Physicians Formula, but I find that a lot of their bronzers aren't deep enough, and this Wet n Wild Color Icon bronzer in the shade What Shady Beaches I think is the perfect depth if you're close to my skin tone. It just actually offers a bronzy tone, so I think if you're spray tanned, you're going to want to have a darker bronzer. So I'm going to dip in very generously, coating all angles of my brush, even like swirling it in there so it gets in the middle. And I'm just going to go over where I did the cream contour and intensify but also set it. And then any leftover, I'm going to just take down the neck. So for blush today, I'm going to stick with a classic pink. I'm going to use my Wet n Wild Color Icon in Pearlescent Pink. I'm going to take a clean, fluffy brush. It's just a little smaller than the one I was using for bronzer, and just slap it on the apples. And I'm not going to be afraid of overdoing it, because again, you're going to be under lights that are just washing you out, and you're not going to be seen very up close, at least by the judges and the audience. Personally, I'm not going to do highlighter. Naturally, you're going to have some oils poking through, so you don't need to add to that and look like a grease ball. Before I move on to the lips, I'm going to set the entire face with powder. We want this makeup to stay all day, and we want it to stay looking matte as much as possible. I'm just going to use my Coty Airspun. I have it in the shade Naturally Neutral. Coty Airspun is a great powder. Maybelline's Fit Me powder is great. There's just really great powders to be found at the drugstore. And I'm going to begin in the center of my face because that's where I get most oily. And then I'm going to buff outwards. Now that powder's done, if you need to do your eyebrows, now's the time to do it. You don't want to do your brows first and then add a powder because you might get powdery brows. I would suggest doing your brows a little more bold than usual if you have weak eyebrows. I'm not going to add anything to my eyebrows because they're bushy and manly anyway, but if you have a little bit of a lighter brow, remember you're doing heavy makeup, you're going to be under these lights, so make them bold, let them frame your face. So for lips, I want to do a bold lip, yet a neutral lip. So it's just going to be a little bit darker, a little bit vampire, but I don't want to do a crazy pink or a crazy red. Again, I wouldn't want to look cartoonish or clowny on stage with everything else being so over the top and beautifully colored and things like that. So I'm going to start with a brown lip liner. I tend to like actual lip liner pencils for this kind of thing, just because I find that gel liners tend to move around and they don't have quite as much staying power. And I am overlining my lip shape just to enhance it a little bit. Now that my lips are lined, I'm gonna go in with a matte color. I'm gonna use the Milani Ludicrous Lip Crayon in the color So Obsessed. I really love lip crayons because they give you that matte look and they have some staying power, but you're not having to deal with a liquid lip that instantly dries them out. And this actually provides some moisture. It looks matte and it has staying power. What more could you ask for? I would definitely carry around or bring some powder to have on hand so I could, blot away any excess oil. And then I would also carry my lip color with me, just for touch-ups. In case you are wearing this matte lip and you're still feeling like your lips are a little dehydrated, you can always just take a plain chapstick and dab it onto your lips, like not drag it across your lips like you normally would, and just dab it on. That way you're taking the least amount of color off, but still adding some moisture to the lips. I find that helps a lot. So before I go in with mascara or lashes, I am going to go in with a black eyeliner and just line the top of my lash line. If you want to do a little bit of a wing, you can if you feel comfortable. If not, just lining the top lash line slightly is going to do you a lot of favors. Okay, so I focused most of the liner on the outside of my eye and just lightly lined as I got towards the corner. Okay, now that eyeliner is on, I am going to go in with mascara. Even though I'm going in with Falsies, it's still important to coat the natural lashes first. Not only will it intensify it, but it will help them blend into the false lash. I really like L'Oreal Lash Paradise. That's probably my favorite mascara at the drugstore. It performs like high-end and it's affordable. And it gives you some vavoom lashes. I know it's tempting when applying mascara to just do the tips of the lashes and move on, but really try to get into those roots and then to the tip. So if you happen to get any mascara marks on your eyelid as you're doing your mascara, don't panic. Maybe let it dry a little bit, take your eyeshadow brush that you were using and just smudge it off, or if you have a clean spoolie, it helps scrape it off without disrupting the makeup underneath. Okay, now we're ready for the real wow factor, the false lashes. The drugstore has great false lashes, Ardell has great ones, Kiss, Salon Perfect. Pick ones that have the amount of drama that you're looking for. So before you put glue on the lash band, make sure to just kind of plop it on top of your eye and see if it's the right length. A lot of times these lashes can be too long. They make them so that it'll fit anyone. So feel free to trim them down from the outside edge. So from the most dramatic edge, trim them there and make sure they're fitted to your eye. You want them to add drama, but you don't want them to look like they're not properly sized. So I will just start by adding a very thin line to the band and then I'll let it dry for 20 or 30 seconds. You want it to get a little gummy. You don't want to put straight up wet glue on your eyes. Then as the glue's drying even further, I just like to take the lash and my lashes and kind of squeeze them together just to make sure there's no big gap between my lash line and the falsie. Okay, as my glue is further drying, I'm gonna just take a little bit of my mascara and add it to my lower lashes. Okay, makeup is complete. I'm just gonna take a facial spray and set the face. You're going to want to use something that really locks in your makeup. Milani Make It Last is great. There are other really great locking in facial sprays for makeup, so you can definitely set your makeup affordably. It is a really important part to just lock everything in and melt it all together. Okay, this is my completed look. Obviously, you could tweak it to your color preferences. If you wanted a different nude color, a lighter nude, different eyeshadows, you could obviously customize it to your preferences or to what you're wearing that day. And if you are competing in a fitness competition coming up, you are a badass. Good luck to you. Have fun. Enjoy the process. Hope you found this video helpful or at least entertaining. And until next time, off I go.
Very well, thanks for dropping by. Off you go.